Welcome to this ESC interview. My name is David Wood. I'm Professor of Cardiovascular Medicine at Imperial College London, and I'm very pleased to welcome my guest, Dr. Charalambos Antoniades from Greece, and he was one of the successful ESC Grant Award winners in 2009. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can we begin at the beginning? What first attracted you to the idea of research?
Well, I was always open-minded. As a medical student, I was doing research in Athens. Then when I graduated in 2000, I started immediately my PhD studies in the University of Athens in parallel with my clinical training. I finished my PhD in 2004.
And what was the subject of your PhD? What did you write your thesis on?
Yes, it was. My PhD was focused on the role of the genetic regulation of endothelial nitric oxide synthase and how could that affect premature myocardial infarction in Greek patients.
And so what did you find? I mean, what was new and original about this piece of work?
Yes, well, in that piece of work, we identified some genetic polymorphisms in endothelial nitric oxide synthase gene, able to predict the risk of premature myocardial infarction in specific subgroups of patients. So that was a very demanding clinical project, searching for genetic predictors of the risk of myocardial infarction around endothelial nitric oxide synthase, and the results of that
okay. So and you did your PhD in Athens, and you said where did you publish the results?
My PhD results were published in 2003, 2004.
Okay, but which journals did you publish in?
In JAC, in Journal of American College of Cardiology.
Okay.
So I got 2 papers out of that.
Very good. So this was a really solid beginning for your research career. And then what attracted you to the ESC Grant Award scheme?
Yes, well, I attended the ESC congresses every year consistently since 2001. So I was exposed to this idea of the ESC grants and the ESC fellowships very early on. And when I finished my clinical training in Athens in 2009, I decided that I wanted to continue to do some further research in my field in a prestigious institution like the University of Oxford. And that's how I decided to apply for an ESC fellowship.
Okay, and so one of the features of these research fellowship awards is that you have to study in another country, in an institution in another country. So how did you go about deciding where you wanted to further your research career?
Well, that's the beauty of the ESC grants and the ESC fellowships. So you have to move to another country, and this is really the idea behind the grants. I had my first contacts with the University of Oxford and the group of Professor Keith Chanin there since 2004, immediately when I started my clinical career as a registrar in Athens.
And how did that contact come about?
Well, we had the first contact in a congress some time ago when we talked about research and we talked about how I wanted to perform some in-depth studies in eNOS regulation because we were in the same field.
So you introduced yourself to him and you talked about the work you were doing and so on. But that was long before you applied for one of these.
That was in 2004, a long time ago.
Yes, okay. And then you completed your PhD and applied for one of these research fellowships, and that's when you renewed your acquaintance with Keith Chanin. And what was his attitude towards you coming to join him in Oxford?
Well, he was very helpful on that. He provided me all the advices. We had a long-standing collaboration before that, so it was easy for me to approach him again in 2009 and ask his opinion about how I could pursue my career further.
So tell us about the work that you subsequently did under the auspices of this fellowship.
Yes, the work I did under this fellowship was focused on the regulation of redox signaling and redox state in the human vascular wall. So we developed some models, some ex vivo models of human vessels obtained from patients having bypass surgery. And we used these novel models to study the mechanisms regulating oxidative stress in the vascular wall. And this was the beauty of this type of research because it was done in human vessels, but outside the human body.
So this was in vivo, and did you develop this model yourself?
Yes, we developed this model with Keith Chanin in Oxford. And we developed that before we started this fellowship.
Okay. And what did you find? I mean, what were the principal outcomes from this piece of work that you did under this fellowship scheme?
Yeah, so we had a number of findings from that study. One of the most important findings was about the role of methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase and the regulation of this enzyme by the genetic background. And we've shown that the regulation of the activity of MTHFR of this enzyme in the human vascular wall affects significantly human vascular redox state, endothelial function, and could have major implications in risk prediction and in the development of novel therapeutic strategies to target vascular redox signaling in human atherosclerosis.
Okay, so the potential value of this work is both in terms of risk prediction in the coronary patient population, but also in terms of therapeutics. And what are you thinking of there?
So by identifying and characterizing the mechanisms regulating redox state in the human vascular wall, first of all, we came across some major differences compared to the basic science models, because it was the first time that we were able to study the actual human vessel itself. And we realized that there are major differences between the human vessel and the human cells culture in the lab. So there's a completely different behavior of the human vessel ex vivo when you keep it alive outside the human body, trying to study its physiology.
But the implications for therapeutics, I mean, are you able to say anything about that at this point?
I think it's early to and a bit dangerous to discuss about implications in therapeutics and about ways of changing clinical practice through this particular piece of work. But of course, by identifying these novel candidate molecules able to regulate redox state and redox signaling in human vascular wall, then it's a good background work for future research that may lead to specific treatments able to modify this.
So these fellowships are for 1 year, and what happened at the end of your year?
So at the end of that year, I ended up accepting an invitation of the University of Oxford to stay there, initially as a principal investigator through a BHF, British Heart Foundation Intermediate Fellowship.
So you actually won new research funding through the British Heart Foundation.
Exactly.
And how long was that funding for?
The funding is for 4 years initially, and after the first year, I was able to become a consultant in the General Hospital, and now I practice cardiology in the General Hospital as well.
Very good. A very nice example of a very successful academic career. And what are your long-term ambitions?
Well, long-term ambitions now are mainly focused on a career in the United Kingdom. So I have my life in the UK now, have my family there. So I'm mainly focused on my career in the
And you're from Cyprus originally, but
yes.
But you did your training in Athens.
Yes.
And have you given any thought to the possibility that you might go back either to Greece or indeed to Cyprus?
Yes, all the options are open always in life, but since there is nothing specific to discuss about this,
So thank you very much indeed, and it's very nice of you to share your experiences of the ESC Research Fellowship Scheme.
Thank you very much.